Ooh! Greetings friends and welcome to the night vision scan x-ray vision tutorial. Friends, in this video I'm going to show you how to activate a cool scan like supervision where you can see through solid objects like walls. You'll be able to see your enemies and like their patrol routes. You'll be able to see, of course, objects of interest like that briefcase over there. I'll also show you how to do things like highlight your allies or like maybe characters that you want to save, you know, like prisoners or civilians and all those sorts of things. All of these things we're going to go over in the video. I hope you enjoy it, friends. Let's get stuck in. Oh, whoop whoop. So friends, we're going to start off with transparency, because what is X-ray vision without being able to see through solid objects? So we're going to start by making a wall transparent, and so that you can see like enemies and items through it and all that sort of good stuff. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into modes, then we're going to go into sculpt mode, we're going to go guides, turn on a grid snap, then L1, and you're going to press down on the D-pad so that you can see this 1 over here. It's going to go from a 1 to a half. So if you press down on the D-pad, it will change the size of the grid snap. And you can of course keep doing that, L1 and down, L1 and up. That's just a little bit of a hint for you there, if you didn't know about that. Alrighty, so now that our grid snap is slightly smaller, we're going to go L1 and square on the cube itself. We're going to reduce the size, so we have a nice thin wall now, and I'm just going to stamp it in place like that. So that's looking pretty cool. I'm now going to grab it by the middle at the bottom and increase its size so that it grows outwards from the center, which is looking cool. Sweet. So now we have a simple wall, and now I want to make it transparent. But of course, if we go L1 and square, and we go physical properties, all we can do is change whether it's visible or invisible. And we don't want it to be either or. We want to have a bit of a transition between them so you can see through it, but still see that there's like a wall there. So what we're going to do for that is, we're going to make sure that our grid snap is still on. And we're going to go L1 and R2, make a clone of this chap. Then press X on it and go convert to painting. Now we do have a few sort of, you know, holes going on over here, and it's not the most convincing copy of this chap. So we're going to go L1 and square on here. We're going to go fleck properties, and then we're going to go stretch to 200%. And as you can see, it's now a little bit better. It's a little bit better a reproduction of this wall. So in order to kind of create the illusion of a transparent wall, what we're going to do is put down a keyframe. And this keyframe is going to do two things. The first thing it's going to do is make this sculpt invisible. So the physical object that we had is going to be made invisible. Then it's going to go to this copy of the wall, and it's going to make its opacity, let's say something like 20%. We might adjust this value as we go along, but yeah, we're going to make it about 20% or so for now. We're also going to go to this painting over here, and we're going to go X, and then we're going to go to the sculpt over here, and we're going to go X, and we're going to say group. Something we're going to do before continuing is going to our keyframe, and we're going to say walls transparent. So this keyframe makes the sculpts invisible, and it makes our painting set to a particular opacity. Then we're going to go into this chap, put on our grid snap again if you turned it off, and we're going to move these chaps into harmony so that they're lined up nicely. Then you're going to go onto the painting quickly, and you're just going to, oh sorry, that's actually the sculpture. You're going to go onto the painting quickly, and you're going to set its opacity to 0%. So by default, the painting can't be seen. But when we activate our keyframe, the sculpt's going to disappear, and the old painting is going to appear at only 20% opacity, so you can kind of see through it. Ooh, as you can see. Lovely stuff. So now we've created a bit of a wall that's transparent. We can of course make this a bunch bigger. We can make copies. We can create like little rooms out of it. You can of course make this any size and shape that you want, and then, you know, copy it and make a convert to painting version of it. So we're just going to make a few copies here, create ourselves a bit of a wall situation, and then we're going to see if we can see something on the other side. So we've got a bit of a wall. If I activate my walls transparent, swing, we can sort of see through it now, which is very cool. So in order to see something on the other side, we're now going to move on to making something sort of highlighted when you scan it. Because of course when you have X-ray vision, it's generally because you want to see where your enemies are, or see where, you know, the sweet objective is, or something like that. So I'm going to go and just grab us a little blank basic puppet. So what I'm doing is I'm going to gadgets, I'm going to gameplay gear, then blank puppet collection, and I'm going to grab this chap with the old terracotta color, a classic character. And we're just going to put him down over here. I'm actually also going to make a copy of this dude. And so this dude over here is going to be like the baddie. So for that, I'm going to make him red. Or maybe, okay, I'm actually just going to leave this dude here for now. We're just going to say this is the baddie and this is the neutral dude. So now what we'll do is we'll actually add in another keyframe. And this keyframe is going to make it so that when the X-ray vision mode is on, we're going to make this dude show up as all red. Because he might not be all red by default. Depending on your game, he might be like dressed in army attire, or, you know, dressed up like a soldier or a villain, or, you know, some fantasy Viking. So what I'm going to do now is you take your character, whatever color they are, that's all good, because we're going to change it with this keyframe. What we're going to do is we're going to go into the puppet itself, and we're going to press X twice on the pelvis. So if you press it once, you'll see just the pelvis is highlighted. But if you press it twice, you select all the parts of this lovely chap. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go into modes, and you'll see a few of these are grayed out and we can't use them, but we can still use coat mode. So what we're going to do is we're going to make this chap red. We're going to go into colors, we're going to go to reds, and we're just going to change the color of this little dude so that they are nice and red. Then we're going to go to tools again, and we're going to go to glow, and we're going to increase the glow ever so slightly. That's looking cool. But we're also going to go L1 and square and say that they are not going to emit light from glow. So they're going to be bright, but they're not going to be like looking like a massive what's the word? Like a massive light bulb. It's just like they are illuminated without illuminating the whole environment. You can increase this value as you see fit. So this is going to be affected by this particular keyframe. So it's going to make this dude red. So we're going to say highlight characters, let's say, or enemies, or whatever you like. Shwang. So that's looking cool. So now we're going to make this character over here look like a civilian or like an ally. And what we're going to do is we're going to go L1 and X onto the keyframe. Then we're going to go L1 and X again into our character. We're going to double tap X on their pelvis. L1 and square. Oh, sorry, not L1 and square. We're going to just press square. We're going to go modes, coat mode. We're going to go for a nice, let's say a nice green or yellow, or, you know, whatever. And then we're going to go to brightness, and I think we made it something like close to 40. It doesn't necessarily need to be as bright. You know, enemies are sort of more of our focus than allies necessarily. Then we're going to go never emit light from glow. So once again, they're illuminated, but they're not like brightening up the whole scene. So characters will be highlighted, and that's looking cool. Now if I have characters highlighted and I have walls transparent, I can already see, I'm getting the vibe of like, ooh, I can now see where the characters are, but you still get the sense of like seeing through solid objects, because there's still like a little bit of like interference there, if you know what I mean. It's still a little bit like solid looking, and that's pretty cool. So here we have how to sort of highlight characters and make walls transparent. That's looking pretty cool, friends. Now the next thing I'm going to want to do is kind of similar to this. We're going to highlight specific objects that you might want to see. So I'm going to go into sculpt mode, and I'm going to make the briefcase. So I'm going to go L1 and square, shape this a little bit, stamp it in place. Gonna just have a little bit of fun. Go into curve. Gonna put on a nice little mirror, and then I'm gonna go like, okay, sweet. Let's create a little briefcase. Shwang. So in case you chaps don't know how to use the old curve tool, you're gonna grab it. You're gonna make it a little bit smaller. L1 and square. It's going to start with a little arrow. You're going to move it in whichever direction you like. And then you'll get 4 other little arrows. And you'll just change the position of them as you like. And the tool will curve in response to where those little arrows are. It's a really fabulous tool. Okay, cool. I'm just going to make it a little bit smaller. It doesn't need to be the best sculpt in the world. I'm just sort of demonstrating something here. It's a cool briefcase. It's a little bit long, so I'm just going to use triangle to make it a little bit not as tall. Okay, sweet. So the briefcase with the nuclear launch codes are over here. And once again, like you can make this whatever color you like. So I'm just going to demonstrate how color doesn't really matter. So I'm going to make it a nice brown briefcase. Go into spray paint. So we're going into tools and then spray paint. I'm just going to make it brown, and then I'll maybe make the handle like a slightly different color, brown. And then we're going to be like, okay, sweet. I think that's cool. Oops, maybe not. You get the idea. So here we have our sculpt, and we've given it a custom color and stuff. And we're going to put down another little keyframe. And once again, with these keyframes, I'm just doing it separately so that you can see the sort of different stages we have, or the different things that we're doing. But you can really have this all as one keyframe, and it can just be the X-ray vision mode activated. You could name it that. I'm just sort of breaking it up nicely. So here we go onto this chap. We're going to go X, then we're going to go square, tools, oh, sorry, not tools, but modes, code mode, and this one will make blue. So we will have our blue object, and you see, even though it's got its default color, and it's got all your decorations and colorings and artistic skills on it, when it's in scan mode, it's just sort of, what's the word? It's turned into like basic colors, the sort of key colors that you're looking for. And then of course we're going to O1 and square, change the glow, and then make sure that it's not emitting light from glow, and there we are. And this is of course going to be our highlight objects keyframe. Highlight objects. And that's looking very sweet. Lovely stuff. So we have walls transparent, we have highlight characters, and we have highlight objects. So now we can be like, okay, sweet, I can see that the package is on floor number XYZ. And of course these walls can be these walls can be maneuvered in whichever way you see fit. You can use it as like a roof or a ceiling or whatever, so that if my package is over here and we activate our various things, we're going to be like, okay, I can see it through the roof. If you feel like when there's too many layers it becomes too difficult to see, then what you might want to do is actually go into walls transparent and make it so that the old painting's opacity is a little bit lower still. Really just like experiment with this and see which one is best for you. Something I also want to do, friends, is just go into show and hide. We're going to go preview and visibility, and then I'm going to go to L1 and X, sorry, to go into my group, and I'm going to want to go to the painting itself. And what we might want to do is then go into modes and change the old style. So when I say style, I'm talking about the fleck that we sort of currently use. And so you might want to be like, the fleck at the moment is maybe not the one, so you can maybe change it to square, or you can change it to, expressive, all of these different ones. It might be slightly better when it becomes transparent. And then you'll just test it like so. You'll turn preview and visibility on again, and then you'll be like, okay, sweet. So if I change the stroke, it's a little bit more transparent, but maybe this isn't the best stroke for it. So you can really just experiment and see what the vibe is there. So I think that's looking pretty cool, friends. And that's pretty much all there is to it. So what we've gone over at the moment, friends, is how to go make walls transparent, highlight particular characters that you're interested in, and then of course highlight objects of interest. Now if you want to turn this into an ability for a character, what we're going to do is we're just going to put our character down over here, our solid snake as it were, wearing his solid eye. or Sam Fisher with his night vision goggles and all this sort of stuff. And of course, friends, another thing that we might want to do here is we've got all of our like particular abilities that we want to have, but we don't yet have the vibe of like scan mode or night vision goggles. So what we're going to do for that is add in a little bit of a filter. So we're going to go into gadgets, then we're going to go into cameras and lighting, and then we're going to go over to this one here that looks like a little Instax photo called grade and effects. We're just going to pop that into the character for now, L1 and square, and we're going to be like, okay, sweet, I want to actually like reduce the color of things, or I want to make stuff look like slightly different by increasing the contrast or decreasing the contrast. Keep in mind that like all of these things will have a bit of an effect on the old what these things look like. So for example, if I have this on so I can see what it'll look like, I can now adjust to be like, okay, sweet, if I do this, if I make the contrast super high, for example, or make the contrast super low, I can see that my colors are still going to come through quite nicely. Or if I change this contrast over here, sorry, this was actually brightness, not contrast. I'll be like, okay, cool, cool, cool. It makes the world seem kind of misty and, you know, all these sorts of things. If we change saturation, that'll have that particular effect. But note, of course, here that if you set saturation to 0, it will also affect those colors. If you have hue cycle, it'll change sort of what all the colors look like. So you might not necessarily want to do that because it'll change the colors of your characters. So just be careful for hue cycle. Then of course we've got color tinting. One classic look that you might want to go for is like the green look. I know that like often, you know, night vision goggles often have that sort of green vibe to them. So if you're like, cool, I'm activating this mode, it's going to have a bit of a green tinge to it. That's looking cool. So of course we've got shadows, we have midtones, and we have highlights here. So all of those things will be slightly like affected by like how strong this is. So you might want to be like, I don't want it to be like super strong. I'll just have like a bit of a greenness to it. Midtones will affect like the most things, and then when you've got highlights, that'll affect the kind of like the colors that are quite bright in the scene. So you might not want to do anything with highlights. I would say generally stick to shadows and midtones, because highlights, because these things have super high glow on them, those might get affected as well, or particular colors might get affected, you know what I'm saying? So like darker reds and as opposed to lighter greens and blues and so on and so forth. You can also add in all sorts of stuff, like you can add bloom, which kind of just makes shiny stuff more shiny. Lens flares, which makes shiny stuff have like a bit of a swang. But because these things don't emit light, you won't really see an effect there. You can add like a bit of a grain. Grain is also like a really good effect for like night vision stuff. You can go mad with it. But you might want to add just like a bit of a slight one. You can have like a bit of a blur there, or a sharpen. So blurs to the right and sharpens to the left. So you might want to have like a little bit of a blur there to show that like when you activate your night vision goggles, it's not as good as normal vision, but it's like, you know, it's you seeing different things. There's also hue selectivity, which you can mess around with. It'll basically make it so that like you only see certain colors. So where this would be useful, friends, is if you want to look for just your enemies. So you might have like different settings for your night vision goggles. So if you're like, okay, sweet, when I'm in this mode, I can see like all the characters of interest. So I can see enemies, I can see allies, I can see objects of interest. But at the moment, I just want to see where my enemies are. So what you'll do is you'll set hue selectivity at 100%, and you'll have it at the color that is affected. You can of course change this. So now I want to look for just where my allies are, or now I want to look for just where the objects of interest are. What you'll do is you'll just cycle between these various chaps. Shwang, shwang, shwang. In the event, like, so if you look here, it's very nice, we can see the red chap and the green floor. But if you look here, it kind of changes the color of everything to gray. And then here you can sort of see the sky and my shadow as well. So if you're using hue selectivity, what might be useful, friends, is for when you activate your like night vision. I'm just going to quickly deactivate gradient effects. When you use your night vision, we'll add in another keyframe. And what this keyframe will do is it'll make sure that like the floor and the wall, for example, is set to like gray. So we'll go modes, we'll go coat mode, and we'll make it gray. So it'll be like, okay, sweet, when I am in my night vision mode, it's going to change the color of all the stuff I'm not interested in, like the walls and the ceilings and the background props, to gray, so that I can use hue selectivity a bit better. So I'm going to say non-important objects gray. So this is really just bells and whistles, friends, but you're going to be like, okay, cool. So non-important objects are gray. And then now when I use hue selectivity, which is this fourth one over here, now if I sort of look for things and have 100%, it's going to be changing these, and it's not going to be changing too much everything else. Like, remember before, like the whole floor went green and did that whole thing, but now when I switch between them, it's not so bad. The sky is now going green, and of course, you could also consider the sky as a non-important object. Of course, you might not see the sky, like, you know, the default dream sky in your game, because you might have like a closed off, you know, scene. But you can, of course, also change the color of the sky very easily. You'll just go into gadgets, cameras and lighting, and you'll put down a sun and sky. And then what you're going to do is use this non-important objects keyframe. We're going to go L1 and square. And we're just going to make it so that the sky is kind of grayish. And you can also set the old, what's the word? This one here, sky tint intensity to like a little bit higher, so that you very much get that sense of being like gray. So these are literally, friends, this is above and beyond what you need to do for scanning in X-ray vision, but these are the kind of vibes I'm going for. So here we are over here, and now once again, if I have hue selectivity on with gradient effects, I can see which ones are of interest, and the sky isn't changing too much, but if it does, such is life. As you can see, anyway, the main vibe is you can see your enemies, you can see your allies, you can see your objects of interest. So use the hue selectivity for changing different modes in your night vision goggles. So that's pretty cool, friends. Alrighty, now what we're going to do is we're going to copy all of these keyframes. We're going to put them into our character. And then we're going to put them into a little microchip. So we'll go logic and processing. And we're going to put down a little microchip. Now that we have our microchip down, we're going to grab all of our various bits and bobs and place them inside this microchip. Once again, all of these keyframes, I've just separated them so that we know what each of them does, all the like various things that you can do, but you can really just turn them into one keyframe. It's not a big deal. Okay, sweet. I'm just going to arrange these a bit aesthetically. That's looking cool. And now I'm going to change the name of this microchip to Night Vision. That's looking very nice. So now we have night vision, and that's looking pretty cool. We'll just make it so that it's activated with the press of a button. So I'm going to put down a selector. When I press triangle, for example, it's going to go into my night vision scan mode, and it'll just, you know, alternate between it. So I'll put down a selector, connect it to the B port. When I press triangle, it'll go next output, so it'll go from A to B. If I press triangle again, it'll go from B to A, and then that creates basically like an on-off toggle. Very nicely there. And now I have my character. If I press triangle, swing. Okay, whoops. It looks like the keyframes aren't on when they're in the microchip, which is funny. I'm just going to make sure all of these chaps are on. So I'll select them all with X, then L1 and square, and make sure that they're actually on. Let's try this again. Swing. So now I can see through the walls, but also note that I changed the opacity and the visibility of the walls, but I didn't make it so that they were no longer collidable. So the physical wall is invisible. The painting / sculpture of the wall is slightly opaque, but it's still collidable, so I can still, it still sort of hits me. So this is very cool, friends. I'm now going to, I mean, that's pretty much all there is to it. I'm just going to create a little bit of a room for us to demonstrate what's going on and the sort of uses of the night vision goggles. So let's do it. Thanks for bearing with me, friends. So now I've created a little base, but of course if this is a stealth game, it looks pretty hard to see what's going on. I don't want to just run in unprepared because I'll totally get spotted by the enemy. So what I'll do is I'll activate my night vision, and now as you can see I can have a view into the enemy's base. So I can see the enemy's patrol route, I can see the object of interest that I'm interested in, and I can see like an ally over here. Maybe they're like a prisoner that I've come to rescue, that sort of a thing. So I can of course plan my attack. I'll be like, okay, cool, the enemy's doing their little patrol, I'm gonna lie in wait. Hopefully they don't see me, and then hiya, I'll take them out and I'll grab my object of interest, so on and so forth. And then I can of course find my ally. If I didn't have my vision on, I'd be like, oh, I don't know what's going on. I can't see anything. It's crazy. But of course when I activate my vision, it'll be cool. You will of course make like your maps like way easier to actually see what's going on, and like a lot more open than this, but I just built this quickly to demonstrate what's going on. And what I used, friends, was literally just like a bunch of the walls that I made. Even these steps, it's just like a bunch of walls that are stacked on top of each other, so you can really, you know, get versatile and use these things for all sorts of purposes. But yeah, I just wanted to demonstrate a few of the uses here. Alrighty friends, thank you so much for checking out this video. Do let me know if you have any questions, or you know, what you'd like me to do next. If you have some like other uses, or if you're like, ooh, mean lad bro, maybe, you know, tell us about this sort of a thing. Do let me know, friends, because I would very much enjoy expanding on this and making more tutorials. Yeah, thank you so much for your support, friends, and I shall catch you on the flip flop. Peace out.